Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. Finally, coming around and reviewing a Lamy fountain pen, specifically the Lamy CP1. This fountain pen, like the Muji fountain pen, seems to be having a little bit of a cult following based on what I have seen. I have purchased this fountain pen from Amazon Canada during a discount at around 55 Canadian dollars, including shipping and taxes. It's definitely an intriguing fountain pen and can't wait to have some fun with it today. Hopefully. But first, let's have a closer look at how it's built. As you can see, the construction of the fountain pen is pretty much straight, has a nice industrial design to it that I actually really like. The material of the fountain pen, they seems to be made out of aluminum, some brass inserts, and some plastic pieces here and there. Cap, straight, same girth as the barrel. It has a nice rocker clip that is very similar with the one that you get on Lamy 2000. Barrel, straight, ends with a plastic finial that has two prongs on either side. On either side that basically will clip the cap when you post it. As mentioned, the clip is very similar with the Lamy 2000 clip. We do have Lamy brand on the side of the clip. Doing a quick shirt test, because of the clip design is very easy to put it in a shirt or a pen case. So basically you don't actually have to slide it over the cloth. It just very nicely, you can open it and it will nicely clip on the shirt or the pocket or whatever you're gonna use it for. It doesn't go too deep, so you'll have a pretty substantial portion of the cap showing off your shirt if that's where you wanna wear it. And removing it, it's very easy, very simple, not an issue there. The clip seems to be made out of one piece of metal. One thing to note, there is an air hole right under the clip. The cap, it's a pull-push type and actually holds in very securely and clicks in very nicely. I like the noise that it makes, and it holds on very nicely. Once you remove the cap, it will reveal a plastic section, the regular nib that you usually get on the Safari fountain pens. In my case, I have an extra fine and pair with the feed that usually comes with it. Having a quick look inside the cap, we do have a plastic inner liner, and yeah, everything seems to be nicely aligned and in place as it should be. Going back to the body of the pen, as mentioned, the section, it's made out of plastic and ribbed and actually gives a very nice feeling or tactile feeling when you hold it in hand. Never had an issue with it slipping out of my hand. The only disappointing part that I have is that this fountain pen seems to come with a silver like color nib, not a black nib, which would have been nice. However, if you want to, you can upgrade or change to a black nib if that's what you want to. Removing the barrel, it's fairly simple. There's a little bit of a fight, seems to be quite some drag on that cap. However, once you pass a certain point, it will be removed very nicely and easy. In my case, once you remove the barrel, it will reveal a converter that actually is not included with the fountain pen. As a fun fact though, I did not purchase this converter. This actually came in the same pack where my Lamy S2000 fountain pen was. So, fun fact. The section has plastic threads and the barrel has a brass insert for the threads, so there is a chance that maybe in time it will strip the threads on the section. However, if you treat it nicely and gently, I don't see any issues, and I don't see, based on how much I played with it, I didn't see the brass and chewing on this plastic yet. Speaking of the barrel, having a quick look inside of it, as you can see, everything seems to be nice and smooth, everything is aligned, no issues there, and as mentioned, brass insert for the threads, and most probably the body of the barrel, it's made out of aluminium. And as I mentioned, the barrel ends with this plastic finial that it's actually there to hold the cap if you want to post it. The pen in hand, lengthwise for my hand, it's pretty much at the limit for me. Seems to be okay, it doesn't bother me. Balance of the pen is pretty much in the middle of the pen, maybe just slightly above the middle. However, if you don't find even the length of the pen that good, you can definitely post this fountain pen. However, this will make the fountain pen a little bit top heavy. Having smaller hands, you'll probably definitely feel the extra weight of the cap. I think at the end might be some extra brass in there that makes the cap be a little bit maybe too heavy. For my hand, especially if I use it for longer strokes and drawing, I think it will be okay. For writing, I might not like it that much posted. And the ballast in hand, as you all see, posted, it shifts quite a lot, way above the middle of the pen. And this is the fountain pen. Not much else to add. Fairly simple, a nice industrial design that I like. And yeah, pretty nice, pretty simple, very slick. So let me go into a writing sample, and then I will attempt to do a nice sketch with it, or at least try and have some fun with it. And going for a quick writing sample. But before doing that, as you probably noticed, I am removing the inking process. However, on the top right, I will link to very short videos that I will be making in order to show how to fill up every filling up system that I have. So for example, this one, I will use a similar fountain pen that it's using a cartridge, and I'll show you the procedure that I usually do for filling it up. I will, however, if I ever have any issues, I will record those issues and I will show them in here before the writing sample. Inking up this fountain pen, there were no issues, everything was fine, and for today I am using carbon black ink, and as a fun thing, seems that my nib stays dirty, I cannot clean it. Anyway, going into the writing sample, this is Lamy CP1 fountain pen. The nib seems to be very nice and wet, flow, it's very good. The width of the line seems to be more of a fine line than an extra fine line, however works nicely. Reverse seems to work as well, really scratchy, I don't know if you can hear it, but seems to work just fine. Alright, the nib actually works very nice, I like it, no issues there. Flow is very good, I really like it. And like I mentioned, the reverse works nice as well. Just very scratchy, however does not dig into paper yet. There is no line variation on this nib, it's pretty stiff. You do get a little bit of a thicker line on the downstroke, but only on the downstroke, but only because you press more on the page and you just get more ink out of the nib. Alright, so this seems to be quite nice. So far I do like the feeling in hand. Even posted, actually, I didn't find it that badly writing with it. However, as an odd thing, as I usually tend to write straight, for whatever reason with this pen, I feel more comfortable writing a little bit slanted towards the right side. Interesting fact. Anyway, let me get into trying and have some fun and get a sketch with this fountain pen, and I'll let you know what I think of it. I have tried something different today, and to be fully transparent, what you see right now is not the first version of the drawing. This will be the third iteration of the drawing. I had a certain idea in my head and I was not 100% sure how to execute it, so unfortunately the first two versions were more like a discovery on how to reach eventually to a final version that I am presenting right now. I decided not to include the first two ones. It would have been just a waste of time. It's still not 100% with what I was thinking, but I guess it's close enough. The broad idea that I had was basically a tree. I guess you can call it a tree of life if you like, that was inside a circle surrounded by mountains, and the whole design was done in the style of neurographic art, my first attempt at such a type of art. I have to admit though, I kinda like it and I might revisit the style in the future. As for the fountain pen, it worked just great without much of an issue. The flow of the ink was actually a little bit on the rich side of things, so it was a little bit difficult to work the more finer detail area. Fortunately, the reverse worked, so I was able to use that, but I had to be gentle with it as well. If I would have pressed too hard or went too fast, it was digging into the Fabriano paper that I have. I did had a little bit of fatigue from the pen. The middle finger under the fountain pen started to hurt a little bit. Not sure if it was because of the section grip style or if it was because maybe I was holding the pen too tight when trying to do the finer details, or maybe a combination of both. What do I like about the Lamy CP1 fountain pen? The first thing that comes to mind is the shape of it. I don't know why, but the way it feels in hand, it reminds me a lot of my older Rotring pencils that I used to use heavily back in the days when I was going to the art school. So that's about 20 years plus or so. I still have those. They're still fun to use. But for whatever reason, it reminds me of that. Maybe because of the grip section, not sure. However, I definitely enjoyed the CP1 fountain pen for drawings lying on paper. Maybe not so much for writing. I guess the surprise for today was the nib, an actual extra fine nib from Lamy, a rare unicorn. The flow was a little bit too much for my liking and drawing style, but not a real complaint. I was able to adjust and overcome, as they say. And I guess lastly will be the clip. Same clip as you get on the Lamy 2000. Works nicely and smoothly. My favorite type of clip. What I don't like about it. The only negative for me that I can think of is the missing converter. At this price point, I would expect it, to be honest. Well, at any price point, I would expect that, to be honest. The other thing was that I thought that maybe it being too top heavy when posted might be a little bit of a bother. But to be honest, I can't recollect thinking anything about that as I was in the middle of the drawing. I do know that my middle finger started to hurt a little bit, especially when I was in the middle of my third attempt of this drawing. Not sure if it because I was keeping the pen too tight because it was too top heavy, or if it's because of the grip section when working on finer details of the drawing. The last thing that I'm thinking of, and this is more of an uncertainty rather than anything, the plastic vinyl at the top of the barrel when you post the cap. Why plastic? Not sure how long it might survive over time, especially if you keep on posting that heavy-ish cap. Well, heavy relative with the pen, I guess. And other things that I might see an annoyance for others, the pen might be on the thin side of things. However, I guess if you are used to using a pencil and you can use it without an issue, I'm fairly confident you can use this pen as well. Overall, I do like the fountain pen, and I understand why for some is a fountain pen that they enjoy using. I was lucky to get it at a little bit of discount, and at $55 including taxes, I think it's a fair price. More than that, I'm not really convinced it deserved the price, especially without a converter included. Do you own this fountain pen? What is your experience with it? And that's all for today. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment below and I will try and get to it as soon as I can. Thank you for joining me today, and I wish you all the best and a wonderful day or night, wherever you are. Take care. Bye.